What's good? What's happening, everyone? It's your boy Ferris Muthana, and welcome to another special episode of Good Friends, Better Rivals. But it's a little different today. I don't have my good friend or my better rival, and what it changes on the category of the day that I'm talking to him. Caleb Ochoa. Caleb will not be joining me, so it's just gonna be me solo show. So we'll be going through all my opinions on the latest New York Giants news, and probably recommend something on the biggest Dallas Cowboy news. We both got new defensive coordinators, but before we touch on that, and the Giants dealt out some promotions, which is also cool. But before we get into that one, we're going to talk about something I'm really deeply passionate about in the game of the NFL. It's the NFL Hall of Fame. The NFL Hall of Fame class of 2024 was announced yesterday. Shout out to main man Leo. Shout out to Leo. What's up? Was released last night, and the Hall of Fame class is a very small. The modern day class is very small. I'm gonna get the full class in a minute. Yep, I believe this is the full class. I got it. So the full class is gonna be Dwight Freeney, defensive end, outside line, edge rusher for he's a defensive end. So he played in that era. He was a defensive end. Then Indianapolis Colts. Also, he played, I believe, for the Falcons. I think no, that was John Abraham. I apologize. So Dwight Freeney, and then we have Denver Broncos Randy Grishar, and then we have the greatest return specialist of all time. Probably you can say the greatest special teamer of all time, Devin Hester, Chicago Bears, Devin Hester. And then we get one of the most underrated, underappreciated, underseen wide receivers of his generation. He just a bad mamma jamma all around. All right. Houston Texans legend. Andre Johnson is in the Hall of Fame. So I'm pretty happy about that, because I personally am a big fan of Andre Johnson. He's a Canes legend as well. He was on the 2001 team, a team stacked full of superstars on that team. I believe he was probably the best football player on that team. You can make an argument with him. So that was pretty good. You got DJ Williams and Mike Rumpf and Phil Buchanan and Antrell Roll, Sean Taylor, Vince Wilfork, Kellen Winslow, but we don't talk about guys. That guy's a wacko. Then Bryant McKinney, Clem Portis, and Willis McGahee. I think Frank Gore was on that team, but Andre Johnson was the best football player off of that team. You're the best football player off of the greatest college football team of all time, and now you're a Hall of Famer. It's a Canes thing, baby. It's a Canes thing. Remember that. It's a Canes thing. So Andre Johnson making it in. I'm super happy. I am excited for him to be in there. So there's that. Shout out to main man Ryan. What's up, Ryan? How you doing? Then we get down to more on the defensive side. One of the main cogs of the 1985 Bears team, Steve Mungo McMichael. I'm gonna be honest with you. I know about Mungo. I know him a little bit from his wrestling. I know a little bit that he's a solid defensive tackle. One of the keys to that defense is like him and it's him, Mike Singletary. Oh my God. There's one more. Richard Dent. There it is. Richard Dent. There's Richard Dent. So I'm really happy. Ron Rivero's on that squad. So we have that. So McMichael, I'm really happy that they got him in before. I hope he hasn't. Let me see. Let me double it, because he's battling ALS right now, and I want to make sure he is. I hope he probably won't be able to make the ceremony due to travel, but I want to make sure he's still with us. He's still with us, but I don't know. He's going to be at the ceremony due to health issues, so we'll see that. And then we get down to a more continuing of the modern day. These are the players. We're getting to the part of the Hall of Fame where I'm starting to see players that I grew up watching in the Hall of Fame. And just like Dwight Freeney, I remember watching him in that Super Bowl against Devin Hester against the Colts. First Super Bowl I ever watched was Colts Bears in Miami. The first halftime show I ever watched was Prince singing Purple Rain in the Rain, and it was a glorious day. That was the day I was like, I love football. Devin Hester taking back the opening kick and scoring. I am shocked that I didn't become a Colts or Bears fan that day, which, it is what it is. If you guys know my story of how I became a Giants fan, it's I'm not going to call it legendary, but, if you call it legendary, I'm not going to disagree with you. And then we keep talking, and then now more. So Julius Peppers is now a Hall of Famer. Julius Peppers, multi-sport athlete, dominant force in. Oh, snap. We got a Twitch sub. Oh, I think we got a Twitch sub. Let me see. Oh, my God. Let me double check if I got a Twitch sub. I apologize. Someone told me we got a Twitch sub. Let me check. Let me double check. Sorry, y'all. I've little house cleaning. Yep. So I think shout out to Brennan. Brennan gave me a Twitch sub. Shout out to you, Brennan. Thank you very much. Shout out to Davon. Shout out to the homie Davon. Thank you, Davon. So now let's get more into it. So Julius Peppers. He was a bad man. He was a bad man. And by golly, Miss Molly, that man would scare people living this. Let's look deeper into Julius Peppers' career. Let's look at all of them. Let me start all over. I'll look back over the other careers. I have some stats. I'm just a little excited. Because Julius Peppers, man, he's defensive end, 6'7", 295. So, man, he's 300-pound defensive end. He doesn't look 300. He looked lean, mean, fighting machine, just a solid rock of muscle. Just like, you know what I mean? Julius Peppers, first round overall pick from North Carolina. All I say is this, man, North Carolina, they know how to produce defensive ends. That's all I got to say. They know how to produce defensive ends. He is fourth all-time in sacks with 159.5. The only player in NFL history with 100 sacks and 10 interceptions. Second all-time with 52 career forced fumbles. At the time of retirement, ranked sixth all-time among defensive players with 266 games played. Carolina Panthers franchise leader in sacks, 97. Forced fumbles, 34. Blocked field goals, 8. One of 4 players to record 10 seasons of 10 or plus more sacks. Other 3 are Hall of Famers. Was named AP Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Led the league with 18 tackles for loss in 2006 and totaled 719 tackles, 175 tackles for loss, 186 QB hits, was voted to 9 Pro Bowls, and here's the key, 3-time first team All-Pro and 3 times on the second team, as well as members of the NFL Decades team in both 2000 and 2010. Hall of Famer. He changed the game. People were like, that's being 6'7", 295. It like you heard about Eddie Too Tall Jones. Shout out to my Cowboys fans, Eddie Too Tall Jones. This man was 6'7". He was power forward for the UNC basketball team, and he didn't play. He was playing like he was 5'8" and fast, but he was 6'8", 300 pounds. People like him shouldn't be doing what he did, and that he was athletically gifted, and he turned his athleticism into proper NFL production. He was dominant. You can make a case he was probably the best defensive player in his generation. You can make a case. You can make a lot of cases. And then we shout out to Mongo McMichael. He signed with the Bears in 84, 81, like I said. He started franchise record 191 consecutive games for the Bears in 13 seasons. Finished the career with most tackles, 814, and most sacks, 92.5 in Bears history. So that's Steve Mongo McMichael. Andre Johnson surpassed 1,000 receiving yards 7 times, led the NFL in receptions twice. He led the NFL in receptions twice and receiving twice, and one of only 3 players, Jerry Rice and Calvin Johnson, in the NFL to lead the NFL in receiving yards consecutive years in the Super Bowl era. At the time of retirement, he was a top 10 receiver. But then, the NFL has changed. those stats will be broken and Andre Johnson will fall, continue to fall. And my problem is these new young cats are going to look at stats and where he's ranked and be like, oh, was he really that good? Yes, he was, because the NFL was different when he played. And now it's a more open raid, air raid system. So I expect the receivers to have great seasons. There's going to be a receiver one day that's going to break 2,000 receiving yards. We think it's going to be Tyreek Hill. I don't know, but there will be a receiver who makes 2,000 receiving yards. That's all I got to say. 3 career games, 200 yards receiving, first team All-Pro twice, selected 7 Pro Bowls, and a member of the NFL All-Rookie team. He is the first player elected into the Texans Ring of Honor. Duh. Of course. Absolutely. He's the Houston Texans' greatest player ever. The Houston Texans were created in 2002. David Carr was drafted. Then he was drafted after David Carr, and then I believe Mario Williams was then drafted a couple of years later. So that was supposed to be their core, but it didn't pan out. It is what it is. And then we keep going up to Devin Hester, like we said. Then we'll finish off with an NFL player that I thoroughly loved. In Devin Hester, the greatest special teams player of all time. He returned 47 punts for 600 yards, both NFL highs, and 3 touchdowns, along with 20 kickoffs for 529 yards and 2 touchdowns. That was his rookie year. The only time in Super Bowl history that he's the only person, he's one of only 4 such kick six scores in the distance. He returned a missed field goal in the NFL for 109 yards. One of only 4 times in the NFL that's happened. He opened Super Bowl against the Colts with a kickoff return, the only time in Super Bowl history to ever be done that. In his second NFL season, he returned 4 punts and 2 kicks for scores. And he was first team All-Pro 3 times. Remember the NFL's All-Decade team in 2010s. And is only one of 2 return specialists on the NFL 100 all-time team. So shout out to the NFL, the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame. And then we get right here. Dwight Freeney. He led that's a Syracuse. He was named, He was selected the 2002 rookie team, recorded 13.5 sacks, 20 tackles for loss, 7 Pro Bowl selections, AP first team All-Pro in 04, 05, and 09, second team All-Pro in 03, secured NFL sack title in 04 with 16, member of the Colts Super Bowl championship team, as well as he played in 2 additional Super Bowls, I believe with the Colts, and I believe it was the Falcons. He was with the Falcons. He played 219 regular season games over 16 years, and career stat totals at 125.5, 148 QB hits, and 228 tackles for loss. Man, here's the thing, man. These defensive ends, getting a sack is hard. Getting a sack is hard. And it's getting harder due to the way teams operate nowadays. Quick passing, all about rhythm and tempo. Keep on your spot, get rid of the ball in like 2 seconds. It's all changed. And getting a sack, man, it's the hardest thing in the NFL to do is to get a sack. That and an interception. Because if you try to get a sack, so you gotta get past an offensive lineman who's also 6'4", 300 pounds. And then after you get past them, you gotta chase a quarterback who probably can run away from you or evade you or do something. And you're going full speed at them so they can use your momentum against you, and you can then, probably miss a tackle. So there's that. So it's getting a sack is very hard. So getting over 100 sacks in your career, it's a minimum of 10 sacks a year. 10 sacks is a great accomplishment. And he has 125, and it's tremendous. Then we have Randy Grishar. He was he was a linebacker. He was a part of the Orange Crush of Denver. Remember the famed Orange Crush of the 70s and the 80s. He was named NFL Defensive MVP and Player of the Year in 78. He played in the Super Bowl. He recorded 8 tackles. First team All-Pro twice. Second team 3 times. So that's 5 All-Pro selections. Those are the keys, man. All pros are what you look at. Pro Bowls back in the day meant something, but now they don't mean anything. So if you played in the Pro Bowl in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, I can, take that into account. But modern day NFL players, The Pro Bowl means nothing to me. It means nothing to me. Ryan Christensen, shout out to Ryan. He said Marvin Harrison Jr. will break 2,000 yards. Bank on it. Let's see if you're correct, Ryan. Unofficially, because some of the old players, their stats weren't kept litigiously or like meticulously, so it's up in the air. He had over 2,048 career tackles, or most in Broncos history, and were most in league history at the time of his retirement. One of 10 linebackers in NFL history, all Hall of Famers with at least 7 Pro Bowls, 20 interceptions, 10 fumble recoveries, and he's a double Hall of Famer. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame due to him being from Ohio State, and is a member of the Denver Broncos Ring of Honor. But now, guys, I want to end it with here. His name is Patrick Willis. This is the last person I'm going to talk about. His name was Patrick Willis. Patrick Willis, in his short career, 7 years, I believe, he was probably the scariest, most intimidating linebacker in the NFL. The only reason he probably wasn't the best linebacker in the NFL is that, from 07 to 14, Ray Lewis still existed. So Ray probably got the shine. He is amazing. Big fan, Patrick Willis. He resurrected the Niners. He helped to resurrect the Niners because the Niners were deep down out of their luck. He was a bright spot. Him and Justin Smith in dark times for the Niners. Dark times. He was an immediate starter. He won Rookie of the Year. He was named first team All-Pro 5 times in 8 years. 5 times in 8 years. Think about that. 5 times in 8 years. His career stats are 20 sacks, 60 tackles for losses, 8 interceptions, 16 forced fumbles. He is someone that, when I talk about longevity, should be a major thing in the NFL. He's someone that I have to maybe retool my thinking, because in the NFL, it's a violent game. You're not going to have a long career. 7 years was pretty tremendous by Patrick Willis, given that he broke his hand more than once. He got hurt a lot of times. He was gonna hit you. And when he would hit you, he would also hurt himself sometimes, and you could play through the pain. And I may have to rethink how many years I think should be serviceable for a Hall of Fame player. 7 years, if you have like a 7-year career and you were solid for 7 years, like Patrick Willis was, that could be the threshold. But people be like, oh, he was only there for 7 years. It was 7 years, and like, he was impactful from the day he started. He was a starter right away. They're like, you're starting. And he started for 7 straight years. And it was quite tremendous for Patrick Willis. So shout out to the class of 2024 in the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame: Dwight Freeney, Randy Grishar, Devin Hester, Andre Johnson. Shout out to the U, Steve Mongo McMichael, Julius Peppers, and Patrick Willis. Heidi tidy for Patrick Willis. Heidi tidy. But we're gonna move on to other Hall of Fame news. Next year, we have some notable first-time eligibles for Pro Football Hall of Fame, class of 2025. They include Eli Manning, Luke Kuechly, Adam Vinatieri, Terrell Suggs, Marshall Yonda, Marshawn Lynch, Earl Thomas, Joe Staley, Demetrius Thomas, God rest his soul, Aqib Talib, Vernon Davis, Darren Sproles, and Cameron Wake. All I say is this: all hell will break loose next year, because there's a couple. I believe, Marshall Yonda, he was the best guard in the NFL for like 12 years. So he could be a Hall of Famer, but he's a guard, so they may make him wait. So we don't know. Marshawn Lynch, Earl Thomas, the Seattle homies. They had a brief period of domination, and then they all went their separate ways, and then a lot of their careers kind of fizzled out. A lot of them, injury, and Cam Chancellor's point. Earl Thomas also injury, and people just not liking him. Marshawn Lynch just kind of just left because he's like, I'm done. So there's that. Joe Staley, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. Same thing with Vernon Davis, Darren Sproles. Like Darren Sproles, he fought He fought through the size complaints and he became a valued member of teams. I think the only, true first ballot Hall of Famers that people may not disagree, it's Adam Vinatieri. He's a Hall of Famer. I think Luke Kuechly is also a Hall of Famer because I believe the day Luke Kuechly stepped on the NFL field, he became the best linebacker in the NFL day one. And he was the best linebacker from the day he stepped on the field in Carolina to the day he said, I'm done playing football. Luke Kuechly was the best middle linebacker in the entire NFL. So I think for me personally, he's a lock. Eli Manning, I believe, is a Hall of Famer because of certain other people in the Hall of Fame and, certain standards have kind of lessened. Also, Eli Manning, you can't tell the story of the NFL without Eli Manning. You can't. Towards the end of his career, he kind of, petered off. It was a bad ending to a pretty good career, unfortunately. But, Eli Manning, Luke Kuechly, and Adam Vinatieri, definitely first ballot Hall of Famers. Marshall Yanda, I wouldn't be mad. T Sizzle is there on the list, so we'll see all about that. But now, everyone, let's talk about what you guys are here to. Oh, we could talk about the pro football snubs, the NFL snubs. Let's talk about the snubs real quick before we move on to the New York Giants. A couple of major names. Tight end Antonio Gates out of the Chargers, which was kind of shocking to me because when Antonio Gates was playing for the Chargers, it was him and Tony Gonzalez. Like, which one's the best tight end? And if you picked one over the other, no one got mad at you. If you were an Antonio Gates guy or a Tony Gonzalez guy, him not being in the Hall of Fame is kind of mind-boggling to me. Defensive end Jared Allen, he was famous. He was a pretty good defensive end, but was he a Hall of Famer? So, maybe not. Running back Fred Taylor, Fred, Jacksonville Jaguars legend, solid NFL player. He at one point probably was in the running for the best running back in the NFL. I need to do more research on him. I know about him through the pivot, and I formerly have I Am Athlete. I know people speak highly of him, so I need to dive, through his history and his stats, and then I'll give you a bigger picture. But then here's the thing that's really crazy. These four people at the bottom: Rodney Harrison, Torrey Holt, Reggie Wayne, and Darren Woodson are not Hall of Famers. I believe is egregious in the sense that if you're going to put Isaac Bruce in the Hall of Fame, Torrey Holt should be in the Hall of Fame. It's not a debate, in my opinion. You put Torrey and Isaac, man. It's not, people liked Isaac Bruce, but people also love Torrey Holt. Same thing with Reggie Wayne, man. Reggie Wayne was but here's the thing about wide receivers, man. There's so many wide receivers in the NFL history and now coming up who are going to have great stats, but are they Hall of Famers? The NFL's changed. Reggie Wayne was the man in Indianapolis when Marvin Harrison left. He was the guy. Colts fans may disagree, but here's the thing too. Like, if you're going to put Dwight Freeney in there and not Reggie Wayne, that's they're kind of in a similar category of Colts legends and importance to the Colts. So you put Dwight, but not Reggie. Reggie plays wide receiver, and wide receivers kind of have to wait. But Torrey Holt not being in the Hall of Fame is kind of egregious because you put Isaac Bruce in. So you got to put Torrey in. And then lastly, Darren Woodson, Cowboys legend. Shout out to the Cowboys. No, not shout out to y'all. Screw y'all. But let me talk about Darren Woodson. Darren Woodson was the forgotten man of the dynasty, because everyone in the dynasty, they all played offense, and then you have the occasional Deion, and then Deion Sanders was the corner, right? So all the news was on a playmaker. They're on Deion. They're on Troy Aikman. They were on Emmitt Smith in the offensive line. Darren Woodson was one of their best players the entire time the dynasty was there. Deion Sanders joined the dynasty. He didn't start with the dynasty. Darren Woodson was there from the jump. And Darren Woodson was one of the best safeties in the NFL at the time of his playing career. I personally think it's egregious that he's not a Hall of Famer. I'm a little disappointed. and I think he should be a Hall of Famer. Personally, in my own opinion, you know how we do is, Caleb's the Cowboys fan. I don't really care. He was AP first team All Pro 3 times, five Pro Bowls. He started 16 games. Well, he played in 16. Let me take that back. He was a starter from 1993 to 2003, 10 years. He has 23 interceptions as a safety. But was he a free safety or was he a box-to-box safety? He was a strong safety. He played DB, but he's a strong safety. So he was really more creeping up to the line. He wasn't a free safety like Ed Reed where you could roam and just pick apart passes. So Darren Woodson, tackles. Let me check with the tackles. Darren Woodson with the tackles. Let me see. Combined, there it is. He has 967 tackles. 639 of them are solo. He has 26 tackles for losses. Interceptions was 23. He has 2 touchdowns. He's a Hall of Famer, man. He is John Lynch. That Tampa Bay defense that everyone loved, everyone talks about. You have the sexy names, Warwick Dunn on the offensive side, Simeon Rice on the defensive side, Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, and then you have the 2 grinders, the 2, bring my lunch pill to work, hit you over the head with it, and Rondé Barber and John Lynch, and apparently now all of them are in the Hall of Fame. Sapp, Brooks, Barber, John Lynch, 4 of them are in the Hall of Fame, and I think Darren Woodson should be a Hall of Famer because Darren Woodson is the John Lynch of that dynasty, and I think Darren Woodson got snubbed as well. Him, Torrey Holt, and Antonio Gates should be in the Hall of Fame due to the factors the NFL Hall of Fame have already made their standard. The writers in that room, they said Isaac Bruce in the Hall of Fame. If you're going to put Isaac Bruce in, you got to put Torrey Holt in. You know what I mean? So there's that. And then here it is. Let's talk about it, guys. I've got on my rant of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm done with the ranting. Let's talk about the New York Giants. The New York Giants have a new defensive coordinator in Shane Cowan. I'm a big crowdfunder. I'm a plead ignorance here. I know about him in Tennessee a little bit. Apparently he's a very good defensive end in the run. Passing is a little left to be desired. He was big in the development of Harold Landry as a pass rusher. So that may be key for our outside linebackers, our edge players. Kayvon Thibodeau, Azeez Ojulari, if he stays healthy. So that could be a benefit to them. And then we have a solid middle linebacking core with Isaiah. If we bring back Isaiah Simmons, but we do have Bobby Okereke, Michael McFadden there, definitely solid. And you have Isaiah Simmons possibly returning, maybe not. We'll see. But so the key is the development of our edge rushers, especially number 5, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Shane Cowan had great success in developing Harold Landry. So that's the thing I am happy about. So there's that. Trying to find more on him. Shane Bowen. It's Shane Bowen, not Cowan. I thought it was Cowan. Shane Bowen. Sorry about that. It's Shane Bowen. And then we have a couple of things where he's a big fan of the 4-man rush. Doesn't mean that the player, like I saw it on Twitter, it was like a bunch of Giants fans talking about it. I don't know who's who, but I'm sorry if I didn't get your name. Where he sends 4, but it's not the defensive lineman that gets sent sometimes. He may drop one of the defensive linemen in coverage, which I'm not a big fan of. You got to make their defensive linemen for a reason. They rush the passer. They get after the running backs. Dropping them in coverage, what are we doing here? If you want to do it, especially once in a while as a defensive scheme, sure, but not a lot, and it's something I don't like whatsoever. It's not pretty good. But then you have that, Vrabel promoted him to Bowen to defensive coordinator, from after 2021. So the categories, EPA are like, success rate, and they went from 28th to 10th. The success rate went from 27th to 8th. Third down EPA are like, trying to get third down conversions, 27 to 12. The DVOA is not, they were 8th. points per game was 6th. So they jumped up to the upper echelon of defensive teams. Yards per play, they were 16th. Explosive play percentage was 4th. So there wasn't a lot of explosive plays. Their completion percentage was 8th. QBR, they were 8th. So the QBs had low QBRs. I think their pass rush success rate was 5th. So there's that. And then their run defense was 13th in success rate. Yards per attempt, 4th. Yards after contact, 1st. So when his players would hit the running back would stop right there. The running back didn't get anything else. You got to swarm the ball, corral, get him, tackle him, and keep it going. They were 4th in explosive plays, which is good because it reduced and was pretty good. Their blitz pressures, shout out to Nick Falato on Twitter. He showed that they were 28th in 2001, 2021, 26th in 2022, and 23rd in 2023. So the blitzing reduced, really. They a lot of twists, a lot of confusion on the defensive line. So that's pretty good. And then their sack totals, in the 3 seasons with Shane. Shout out to Nick again. In 2021, 42, which was 10th. 2021 was 42, which was 10th. 2022, which was 39, which was 18th. And 2023, which is 45, which is 16th. And D'Amico Autry had 11.5 sacks last year. Harold Ledger had 12 in 2021. D'Amico had 8. D'Amico Autry had 8 in 2022, which reduced it to 18th. Shout out to let me see. Shout out to Big Blue View. I appreciate the information they're providing. He loves his 3 defenders within the tackle box. So they keep them tight, stack linebackers behind. So from Big Blue View, shout out. And defense ends a little, then they can switch it up to make it wide. So it's a lot of defensive line manipulation is what I'm seeing from Shane, and seeing the dissection by the Big Blue View. Shout out to you, Big Blue View. So that helps, Dexter Lawrence find new pathways to destruction. Same thing with Tibbs. If they're, doing line manipulation, instead of people like a random safety running or a random DB running while you're also running, you're moving Dexter Lawrence around. See, like, can the offensive tackle stop Dexter Lawrence? Can the center have to go chase Dexter Lawrence? And then coming out of nowhere, you have Ashawn Robinson hitting the center and getting a sack. So it's kind of manipulation in that sense. So I'm a big fan of that. And more often, there were more news coming out of the New York Giants. A couple promotions were thrown around. Mike Kafka was blocked from interviewing for offensive coordinator duties in Seattle because the Giants did not want that to happen, because it would have made Brian Daboll look bad. It would have. Brian Daboll, the more information that's come out is that he needs to chill out. He needs a come to Jesus moment where, just like Tom Coughlin, Michael Strahan threatened to retire. He told Mike Coughlin, you need to change. This isn't the way to win things. You need to change your attitude, your personality, the way you operate, so we can be fulfilling as a team. And Tom Coughlin did that. And then he reverted back to his ways in Jacksonville because he became the head boss, and no one could stop him. But in New York, he had a boss, and he was told to change and chill out. And that's what Brian Daboll needs. Because if Mike Kafka left, it would have made that like no one wants to work with Brian Daboll. He's not someone you want to work with. He's kind of abrasive, but not in the good way. Like, he's kind of an a-hole. So they needed to keep Mike Kafka in, so they blocked it. And in blocking it, they gave Mike Kafka a promotion. Now he's assistant head coach. He has assistant head coaching duties. It varies from team to team what those duties are, but he's going to get those duties. One of the members who was in the running for a defensive coordinator position was DB coach Jerome Henderson. He became DB's coach. Now they added the title of defensive pass game coordinator to Jerome Henderson, which kind of may lead to a possible promotion down the line if Jerome stays and Shane leaves, Jerome then can take his spot. Then we keep going down. QB coach Shea McTierney. Shea McTierney was been people have been trying to poach him for the past 2 years. Tampa Bay interviewed him, but then they settled on David Canales, who's now the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Shout out to Brodney. So with Shea Tierney, he's the QB coach, but now he has a secondary title, which is offensive pass game coordinator. So Jerome Henderson and Shea McTierney become pass game coordinators of their respective sides, defensive and offensive. These are all coming with raises as well. So you get promotion, you get a raise. And then we also have the new offensive outside linebackers coach, Charlie Bullen, and defensive assistant, Zach Cahoon. So there's that. But then, speaking of defensive coordinators, we're talking about Shane Bowen. Now let's flip to the other side of good friends, better else. The Dallas Cowboys hired Mike Zimmer. They hired Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer being, I believe, was the defensive backs coach with the Cowboys when they were winning their Super Bowls. I'm gonna look up. Shout out. Let me look up. Is this RJ? No, it's David Howman from Blogging with the Boys, and he's breaking down the coverage schemes of the new Cowboys defensive coordinator. Mike Zimmer. And here's the thing, man. You better play man coverage. You better play press man coverage. You can find a cover 2 corner anywhere. I can go down to Mike Zimmer on the NFL, Mic'd Up on NFL Network in 2014 said this: you can find a cover 2 corner anywhere. I can go down to 7-Eleven in Bloomington and get one. Mike Zimmer, you got to play man. You got to play man. And then here's the key: the importance of safety play. Exactly, because Darren Woodson was the key in Dallas. Mike Zimmer made Darren Woodson a Hall of Famer. Because Mike Zimmer, I believe, was the DB coach in the 90s for the Dallas Cowboys. He stayed for many years. Many years. Let me see. Dallas Cowboys. He was the Dallas Cowboys defense coordinator from 1994 to 2006. So I believe he has one Super Bowl. He has Super Bowl 30, where the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Cowboys beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Super Bowl 30. So he didn't win the first two, against, Buffalo and Buffalo, I think. Buffalo and Buffalo. Y'all beat Buffalo both times. So he was the defensive assistant with the nickel corners. He was the defensive backs coach from 95 to 99. Then he was a defensive coordinator from 2000 to 2006. Then he went to Atlanta. Then he went to Cincinnati. Then he went to Minnesota. He makes corners out of nothing. Versatility is key. And he has a lot of versatile safeties with them because Dallas drafted like a bunch of safety, like linebacker hybrids. And if you don't know how to play man corner or quarters coverage, where you drop 4 DBs back deep in different variations, you will not survive. The reason he failed in Minnesota is that he didn't want Kirk Cousins. He made it very clear. He's like, yo, I'm looking, he ain't it. And Rick Spielman said he is it. And they hate each other because of that. And then they both got fired by Ziggy Wolf. And now, and we'll see if Mike Zimmer can resurrect him. But he's one of the best defensive minds in the NFL. He had great defenses in Minnesota. The problem is, it was always on the offensive side in Minnesota. Quarterbacks, he had Case Keenum, unfortunately he had Teddy Bridgewater, he had Teddy Two Gloves. Then he had Kirk Cousins, and he's like, Jesus. Survived the Xavier Rhodes experiment, where Xavier Rhodes was like the biggest thing in the world, and then he just stopped playing good football. Drafted a bunch of corners. Trey Wayans, Mike Hughes, you name it, he drafted it. And this was definitely a Jerry Jones hire. Because you think Mike Zimmer is going to stay being a defensive coordinator when he had success as a head coach? This isn't like Wade Phillips, where Wade Phillips went back to being a defensive coordinator and never got hired as a head coach because he didn't want to be a head coach. He didn't want that. He wanted the defensive room. That's what he wanted. Mike Zimmer, and unlike Wade Phillips, Mike Zimmer actually had success as a head coach. He made the Vikings respectable. You know? Wade Phillips underachieved with the Cowboys. So all I say is this. Mike McCarthy, you better watch out. If you don't watch out, you blink and you're unemployed and Mike Zimmer has your job. So watch out. Watch out, bro. This is a warning shot to you, Mike McCarthy. It's a warning shot to you. Jerry Jones has shot the first shot at you. And he said, you better figure it out. You shouldn't be losing that bad at home to the Packers. The game was so bad, the Packers took out their starters. The Cowboys came back. The Packers put their starters back in, and then the Packers then showed you we are still better than you. You just were just beating up on our backups and our third stringers. So Mike McCarthy, he's on the hot seat. Because Mike Zimmer you don't just hire Mike Zimmer to be defensive coordinator. Mike Zimmer has bigger aspirations. Because he had success as a head coach. And you telling him you become the head coach of the Cowboys with the bankroll and the trust the team has with players and going to go get players. The Cowboys have a talented team. That's what I'm saying. They have talent on paper. Everyone looks at them like, you're a talented team. CD, Jake Ferguson, Dak Prescott, Tony Pollard, that offensive line, some of the defensive pieces. You're a talented team, and you keep choking. There's a problem, and it's at the top to bottom. And Mike McCarthy, if you don't watch out, Mike Zimmer takes your job. That's all I got to say. But on that note, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. I just ranted about the Cowboys and the Giants and the Hall of Fame. I appreciate all the support. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Make sure to like this video, guys, as well as to subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Appreciate you. We're trying to get to 130 subscribers. I believe we're still at 126. So, share it with your peoples. Have fun. All that jazz. But without further ado, everyone, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. One last thing. No, I'm good. We're also simultaneously, streaming on Twitch. If you want to go over on the Twitch side and just follow, you could subscribe if you want to. You could, if you want to. That would be amazing. It would be helping us out tremendously. But if you just want to follow the channel, go to www.twitch.tv/LGRN_network. So there's that as well. But without further ado, everyone, have a wonderful day. See you guys next time. And I appreciate every single one of you. Peace.